So I don't know if you guys have heard of Enoch Burke, but he is apparently an educator in the Irish school system, Wilson's Hospital School, apparently. Um, he refused to refer to a student as they and has been subsequently jailed. High Court judge has ordered that teacher Enoch Burke be returned to prison due to his ongoing refusal to stay away from Wilson's Hospital School. Mr. Burke was previously dismissed by the school for alleged gross misconduct, and he had been embroiled in a long-running legal battle with his former employer. This decision to suspend the Comeo teacher followed his objection to former principal Niamh Mcshane's direction in May of last year for teachers to address a transitioning student by their chosen name, and he publicly voiced his opposition to that direction at a school event June 2022. School board management asked the court for orders seeking Mr. Burke's attachment and committal to prison over his refusal to comply with a permanent injunction granted by Mr. Justice Alexander Owens earlier this year. In a ruling late on Friday, yesterday, Mr. Justice Mark Heslin said there's no dispute that Mr. Burke had flagrantly breached the orders to stay away from the school in order that he be committed to prison indefinitely until he agrees to stay away from the school. The judge asked Mr. Burke 3 times if he was prepared to give an undertaking in the terms of the order against him. On each occasion, Mr. Burke, accompanied in court by members of his family, remained silent. The judge stressed that Mr. Burke could secure his release from prison at any time by agreeing to stay away from the school. He again claimed that the board's actions against him arise out of his opposition to go along with transgenderism, something he said was damaging to children. The board denies that claim. Mr. Burke's presence at the school is causing severe disruption for staff and students, council said. A large part of school principal Mr. Frank Millings and his staff's working day is taken up dealing with Mr. Burke's presence at Wilson Hospital, council said. However, Mr. Burke said that every day since last January, following his reattendance to school, following his release from prison, he has received overwhelming support from parents, students, and staff at the school. He said he utterly rejected claims made by Mr. Milling and chairman of the board, John Rogers, that my presence at my workplace has caused stress, disruption, fear, or, or a safety concern at the school. He claims parents and students have shaken his hand. Anyway, I'll link this article if you want to read it. It's let's see. Yeah, I mean they're arresting someone for not complying with the given pronouns. You know, I mean Jordan Peterson has been instructed to re-educate himself, and now this teacher in Ireland is yeah, the Irish Times. So he's jailed for a second time over this. And I mean, I agree. I think it is harmful to push it in schools. It's not, you know, transitioning is not that's not something that a child should be doing. I don't think. You know, they're just not. Their brains aren't fully formed. Nothing's fully formed. How do you know what you are before you even grow into, you know, like a full-sized human? You're just a miniature little brain's not fully developed. We know that. That's why we refuse to let children take alcohol and smoke cigarettes and drink caffeine because caffeines and nicotine and alcohol are extremely bad for the developing body and brain. So where's the disconnect here? I mean, if you want to juice them up with hormones, then let's get rid of the idea that children can't smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol and do drugs. Join the military. If children are capable of making a permanent life-altering decision that could endanger their health, there could be lifelong medical complications, then they're obviously fully capable of many different things, and this could tie into the idea of sexual consent as well. Conspiracy theory, it's just, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying the thought is there and it could potentially tie in. Who knows? Just an interesting little theory. I'm sure it's wrong. Yeah. So anyway, we got a little short video here. Let's watch a portion of this.
Good evening. We're standing here tonight outside Mountjoy Prison in Dublin. My name is Josiah Burke and I'm here with my mother Martina. And last Friday, on the 8th of September, my brother Enoch Burke was incarcerated here in Mountjoy Prison by order of Judge Mark Heslin because my brother would not accept transgenderism. Now, there were many extraordinary events on Friday, the 8th of September. It was a long day, and we just feel that it's important that
It is a complicated situation. I'm trying to wrap my head around this because now he's trying to return to his workplace, but what he should be doing is filing a lawsuit for being unjustly fired for not complying with an illegal order. I don't know what the laws are in Ireland, but it's supposed to be a moderately free country. I cannot believe that they're compelling speech to the point of firing and then jailing when he tries to return. I don't know. This is a weird story, but at the root of it, he is ultimately in prison because originally he refused compelled speech. And now they're shifting the charges to, oh, you won't stay away. Now you've got a restraining order from the place of work that you used to work at before this initial issue caused, a separation. So it's kind of like when you're not doing anything wrong and then a cop is like, I'm arresting you, and then you're like, wait, why are you arresting me? On what grounds? And he's like, you're resisting. And then, now you're getting arrested for resisting arrest when initially the arrest was unlawful. Like, that's another weird one, right? Cops just kind of justify the arrest as the events unfold. It's just, magical. And it seems to be the same concept unfolding in Ireland. I mean, all these first world countries are going through the same fucking movement where it's all like, you have to. We're not asking for respect. We're not asking for cooperation. We're demanding your compliance while actively disrespecting and persecuting, harassing, committing violence against people. They are committing violence. According to their own definitions, speech is violence. They wanted speech to be violence. So I'm on board. Sure, speech is violence. Well, guess what? You are causing violence if you're yelling at this person and saying that they're terrible and insulting them and making them lose their job. I mean, that's violence perpetrated upon them. You're dismantling their entire life. How is that non-violent? Just because there's no blood drawn? It's very violent. It's very aggressive. It's very hostile. It's nothing to do with unity and acceptance and tolerance. It's the exact opposite. It's ignorance and it's insanity and it's anti-human because they prioritize ideals over physical human, like live red-blooded human beings just like them who have different thoughts, different beliefs. Oh, you know what? Let's throw you in a fucking hole and let you rot.
public know what happened on that day in the forecourts. Many things that were not reflected in the various media reports that went out. And the case was scheduled for around 11 o'clock in the morning. As you probably know, my brother Enoch, a teacher at Wilson's Hospital School in County Westmeath, had presented for work at the school when the summer holidays came to an end. Now, the school had gone to court to get the court to commit Enoch Burke to prison for turning up to his place of work, and they wanted his attachment and committal, which essentially means putting him into Mountjoy prison. Of course, the court facilitated this, sadly and disgracefully, and Enoch Burke arrived at court on Friday the 8th of September. Now, a few things were obvious straight away. At 11 o'clock or thereabouts, Enoch and other members of his family arrived at the forecourts, and there was a Garda van parked outside the forecourts and outside the central office. And this is very unusual. We have been in the courts before a number of occasions, and this is very unusual that this van will be placed there in the place where it was. The other thing that was very unusual was that the case was held in courtroom 13 in the complex. Now, it's a vacation sitting of the High Court, and there are judges who come in when it's on vacation, and they almost always sit in one of the four courts that's in the center of the four courts building. And those courts are big, they're spacious, there's plenty of room for the public to come in and see what's happening. They're very accessible, it's very easy to get into those courts. But we were obviously surprised to find that it was in courtroom 13, which is one of the most difficult rooms to find in the entire building, and very, very inaccessible. In fact, it took Enoch and the members of his family that were there quite a while to even find it themselves. No less, you can imagine, for a member of the public who wanted to attend. And a number of very strange things happened when we went in. Immediately, and this was a theme throughout the day, the case was pushed on. And Enoch ended up standing up to defend his case late that evening, when it was scheduled for 11 o'clock, number 2 on a list of 6. And the judge spoke up immediately, and he said he's putting the case to the end of the list. He wants to hear all the other ones first. So it was put back to 2:30. And when we came back at 2:30, we were told that it was going to go to 3:30 p.m. And then when we came back at 3:30 p.m, we were told that it wouldn't be held, or it wouldn't be heard before 4:30, because the judge, the staff needed a break. And as we were waiting in the, as yourself and Enoch were waiting in the hallways at that time, the judge strolled past with his assistant, clearly under no pressure whatsoever, and not a busy man at all. And when you went back then at around at 4:30, we were told that it wouldn't be until 5:20, pushed right on to the end of the day. And there were members of the public there at the beginning, and as the day went on, the crowd thinned out dramatically, so that when it finally was heard, there were very few people in the room at all. Now, Enoch, and we believe this is on purpose, and that's the message simply of this video. It's a suppression of the case, it's a suppression of the public interest and the public who should be there.
Yeah, while we were waiting, there was a lot of camaraderie,
Yes.
chat and laughter.
Yes, so there were members of the media present, and I'll come to this in a moment, but there was a lot of laughing, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of crack with the members of the Gardaí who were there, and we'll come to this in a moment, and with the staff. And I think this is very significant, and the media and the lawyers for the school.
Yeah.
Enoch Burke began his case at around quarter past 6, after the counsel for the school had spoken. And I won't go into too much detail here, but simply one of the main things that came out was that the judge was not interested in what Enoch had to say, and that was evidenced by the fact that the judge never looked up when he was giving his case. And if you know anything about the courts, or perhaps you've been at a court yourself, you'll know that the judge interacts with the defendant, or with the person who's making the case. He will ask questions, he'll be interested. The judge showed no interest. He wouldn't look at Enoch while he was making his case, and he only asked one question in the entire time that Enoch was on his feet, and it was an irrelevant matter at that. While Enoch was coming to a very important point, which was the actions of Frank Milling, the principal at Wilson's Hospital School in County Westmeath, Frank Mcshane had mocked Enoch, he had mocked his health, he had mocked his religion in very extreme and terrible ways. Enoch was just coming to this part of his
Yep.
case, and the judge, when Enoch got onto that, he interrupted him, and he said that it's getting late and that we need to get to the point. And how interesting that when these things are being brought out, the judge wants to move it on. He doesn't want the truth coming out about what really is happening at Wilson's Hospital School and the attitude and the behaviour of.
Yeah, if you have privately held beliefs that go against what the agenda and progress, you're gonna get fucking steamrolled. Because that's all ass backwards bigoted shit, you know. The future is children making adult decisions and adults being told to shut the fuck up by children because they run shit now. You know, I decide what I'm doing, mom and dad, and my school has got my back. It's me and the school versus you two idiots that had me, you know, and sorry, you're old and ignorant, and me and the school, we're the future, mom and dad. So you can either shut your mouth or we'll throw you in jail. How about that?
The staff of the principal, Frank Mcshane. Now, at 8, the judge, Enoch, finished his case, and the judge immediately began to give his judgment. And this is very significant because judges rise, they consider the matter, it might take a while, but there was no rising. The judge was straight into his judgment, and it was clear that the judge had simply been writing his judgment while Enoch had been speaking. No interest in what Enoch had to say, no pondering the arguments. What you would call simply prejudgment.
Yeah,
The
guilty
judge had decided already what was going to happen, not interested in the arguments that were being made.
Apparently the way the Irish justice system works is guilty, your guilt is assumed, and your burden is to prove your innocence. Otherwise, this would be a mistrial, because the judge didn't even let the trial conclude and had already written his summary and decision. That's insane. Free country, right? Ireland? Is it a third world shithole or is it a first world free country? I don't know. It's confusing now.
And as the judge gave his ruling in the matter, my sister Niamh Burke was in the court, and she rose and she spoke to the judge, and she simply pointed out to the judge that he had totally ignored the many lies that had been told by the counsel for the school that evening. She pointed out that very important fact, that the judge had no interest and had not showed any interest in the actions of the school and the lies that the lawyers and the counsel for the school had told. Now the judge rose at this point, and I suppose at this point one of the most important things, I suppose, that had happened that day became clear, and that was the presence of An Garda Síochána, the massive presence of An Garda Síochána in the courtroom complex. Now, up to this point, we may not have been fully aware of that, but the door opened and there were lines of Gardaí outside courtroom 13. There were 12 Gardaí outside the courtroom door, lining the hallways, and there were 3 Gardaí inside, so up to 15 or more Gardaí in that complex. There were members of the public order unit present. Now, the public order unit is the part of An Garda Síochána that's used for violent crime, for
So apparently there are some issues currently. This is a Irish Journal of Legal Studies, published 2011, so this is not recent. Presumption of Innocence in Irish Criminal Law, Recent Trends and Possible Explanations by Dr. C. Hamilton. The existence of 4 contemporary threats to the presumption of innocence in England and Wales has been posited by Ashworth. The aim of this article is to take stock of the law in the Republic of Ireland impacting upon this cornerstone principle of Irish criminal law. The article explores Ashworth's arguments in more detail and examines the justifications for the presumption of innocence generally and in an Irish context. Yeah, so I guess there is little bit of an issue over there with innocent until proven guilty. Presumption of guilt may be becoming more common than presumption of innocence when a trial is just hearing opening arguments. That's sounds like a ass backwards third world shithole to me.
For managing dangerous criminality in dangerous situations. The Gardaí were armed with batons. This is incredible. It's hard to believe, but that is what happened on Friday in the four courts. There were no other cases happening at this point. It was dark outside. The complex was deserted. But there were a sea of Gardaí and the public order unit there to make sure that Enoch Burke was incarcerated, an innocent teacher who never has been in trouble with the law. Important that they would get him to prison. Important that they would.
So the two things that he's done, as far as I can tell, to be guilty is refused compelled speech, which caused him to be fired and I think jailed, but I'm not familiar with that portion of the case. But regardless, right now we're talking about a just going on the property is resulting in him being arrested for an original charge that, you know, may or may not. It's just, you know, it's just having a contrary opinion. The concept to me is if you have an opinion contrary to the agenda, I'm starting to believe that you may be charged and you may be convicted and imprisoned for wrong speech, wrong thought in first world countries. I mean, this was dictator playbook type stuff where it's like, oh, you can't criticize me or I'll fucking chop your head off after I kill your family in front of you. Lesser version of it, more of a civilized incarceration where, yeah, we're just going to lock you up because you refuse to comply and be a productive citizen that says the right things. Your speech is unwanted, and so we'll just put you in jail. Bye.
Keep him separate from his family. At one point, Martina spoke and she pointed out that the judge had obviously prejudged the matter, that he was clearly showing that the matter was a case of prejudgment. And again, the Gardaí were present, and an intimidating scene and a shocking scene that night in the four courts. Now, I suppose at this point I would just say that we all know that Dublin City is in serious trouble with crime. We know that you're not safe in Dublin City. The statistics show that you're 5 times more likely to be robbed in this city than you are anywhere else in Ireland. The drug problem is catastrophic in this city. People are dying on the streets.
Sounds like liberals are running that city.
There is there are drugs there's drug dealing on the streets openly in front of everybody. I've seen that myself in the city.
Yep.
You've probably seen it as well. We know that when you call a guard in this country, when you call the guards, you can't get one.
Sounds like
you can't get the guards
any
to attend
big city
crime
run by liberals in the U.S.
To respond to a burglary or some other crime. But there were up to 15 Gardaí.
Walmart just shut down their Chicago store because it's just getting cleaned out over and over and over. At one point, they burned some shit in the store, set off the fire sprinklers, destroying most of the merchandise, and that was after they'd robbed the place. So they did one more try, and then a lot of vandalism occurred again, and they're like, not worth it. We're losing more money than we're making by being in this market. So places like Chicago are just letting themselves be run into the ground by an unruly mob.
At night, in the forecourts. The American government, the US government, recently released a statement warning people who plan to come to Dublin City. Things are so bad. And yet they can spare 15 guards for a teacher, a school teacher, who doesn't accept transgenderism. They can spare 15 guards so that a family can't stand up and speak the truth. And speak what everybody in Ireland knows, which is that the matter is prejudged. That Enoch Burke should not be going to prison. He should be back in the school. He should be teaching his students. That the drug barons who are on the streets of Dublin should be in Mountjoy tonight. Yeah. But they're outside. They're walking past me as I speak. And my brother, Enoch Burke, is in prison tonight. tonight he's in there. He's locked up. Maybe you could turn the camera around. He's in a cell tonight, locked, looking at four walls. So we felt that it's important that you would hear that and that you would know what happened on Friday.
One of the hardest things, I suppose, Josiah, for myself and my husband, and even for Enoch, would have been the camaraderie and the laughter
Yes.
and the joking from the journalists and the reporters who come out afterwards on RTE and write their pieces in the paper or whatever. But the joking and the laughter as a young, upright, law-abiding teacher, excellent at his job, zealous in his work, zealous to go the extra mile for his students, to do anything he could to bring glory and honour to that school for the years he was there. I can't understand how people, professionals, could be so heartless and so cruel. I don't see anything funny about anybody being handcuffed and led away. I don't see anything funny about that, and these things are hard to take in. But either way, my son is behind bars here in Mountjoy tonight. He's done nothing wrong. He's not a murderer. He's not a fraudster. He never took drugs in his life. He's not a drug bar. He's not a sexual abuser. He's a law-abiding citizen who did his job well, who worked his way through college, and who did a good job when he was teaching in Wilson's Hospital School. But he's in here tonight for one reason, and that's because of his Christian beliefs.
Yeah, having virtue, morality, self-discipline, wanting to improve yourself, wanting freedom, that's right-wing extremism. It's dangerous. It's counter to the, I don't know. I mean, it's not being said, but it seems like a communist agenda. It seems like they want government control. They want to take your autonomy away, turn it into a collective. We're all supposed to think the same thing. Groupthink. Government, manages your freedoms, not you. We're going to take those freedoms back, give them to the government. You're not being a good steward of your freedoms because you're saying ignorant shit. You're being intolerant. And it's like, you can say that stuff to us, to me, but it's hard to take you seriously when you're doing the same thing except worse. Enoch, he just didn't want to comply with a speech mandate, and he didn't put anybody in jail. He didn't harm anybody. He didn't deprive anybody of their ability to pursue happiness. But right now he's sitting in jail, and the side that is accusing him of being intolerant and not like a team player won't go along with this. Um, they're not a player at all. They're just an oppressor. They are just evil, vindictive, violent individuals that are lashing out and harming people in a material way. Again, causing harm, you can do that in court. You can steal, you can take people's money, you can destroy their lives, you can put them in jail. This is violence. I mean, unless we're going to go back to the realistic version of violence, like if violence is just harming people, even if you just insult them, that's violence. Words are violence. Well, courtrooms full of words, didn't sound like anyone was listening and was very disrespectful. Sounds pretty goddamn violent to me. So he got viciously attacked in this courtroom, and let's say it was a transgender person asking to be called a certain pronoun. Boy, that's enough of an offense to fire you. I mean, this is so egregious. But then, God forbid, he asked to be listened to in his day in court, where he supposedly gets to defend himself and gets to speak before he's summarily executed without consideration, just like in old England and Ireland where there was no rights. They seem to be going back to that. No rights, just summary execution, summary decision. Throw them in the Tower of London or whatever the equivalent is in Ireland. It doesn't bode well when you see Canada and Ireland doing things like this, and if you're trying to think that that's not, it can't come to America, it certainly can, with enough leaders, enough politicians supporting this agenda. you can't do a damn thing about it.
Of his religious beliefs. Now, our Constitution
Yep. Religious beliefs.
grants
Persecuted.
that freedom to every citizen of this country
Not anymore.
to profess their religion freely and openly.
Not
To
anymore.
have a religion and to practice it and to profess it. Niamh Mcshane sent an email to all staff in Wilson's Hospital School on the 9th of May 2022, telling them it was expected of them to use the different pronouns and address a male student by a different name. In other words, to endorse transgenderism. Now, transgenderism is a belief that's contrary to Christian belief. It's not a Christian belief. The Christian ethos, the Christian belief is that God made them male and female. He, she. That's it. So this was a line that Enoch could not cross. This infuriated Niamh Mcshane, who is an activist, and she, as we know well, what she did. She was infuriated. She couldn't contain herself until she had Enoch removed from the school. But Enoch has a right to his religious belief. And every judge, 14 of them, he's been before 14 judges, 11 High Court judges, and 3 Appeal Court judges. Every single one of them, before they sat on that bench, had to take a vow.
Yep.
And vow before Almighty God to uphold the Constitution and its laws without fear or favour. And there certainly was no favour shown to Enoch Burke. There was favour shown to others. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going into that tonight. But I'm saying Enoch has a right to his religious belief.
Well, they take this oath before Almighty God, but that complicates things when they don't believe in God to the point where they think it's a joke and probably some sort of scam argument that he's coming in and trying to use his religion as a shield to not say the words that they want him to say. And so they probably don't even take the argument seriously. They're just like, this guy's a scumbag, scam artist, bullshitter, trying to come in here. He wants to insult transgender people. He's just hiding behind his religion. He's a piece of shit. Throw him in jail. When that's not the case. It's, you know, just because you don't take religion seriously, that shouldn't preclude others from doing so if that's part of how they want to experience life on this earth. And geez, that's a whole other issue. If that is truly the next step, is religious persecution, which is starting to kind of be rearing its head. Like it seems like YouTube is censoring certain Christian content. Christians may be persecuted class again, you know, which I definitely never saw this coming. And it's stuff like this that is just coming out of nowhere that is another reason that I started deciding that I'm going to lend my voice to the issues that I see going on. If things were calm and happy, I wouldn't be running my mouth. I'd be doing other stuff. But there's only so much I can take before I'm like, it's just starting to lose my mind watching everything unfold and not doing anything, not saying anything, just continuing to ignore it and thinking, oh, it won't get worse. This is really weird. I'm sure there'll be pushback. Nope, it just keeps going and going, and next thing you know, teachers are in jail for saying the wrong thing. I mean, in a first world country that is supposed to be free under a constitution that's not dissimilar from ours.
Those judges have reneged on that vow.
Yep.
They have no right
Agreed.
to take Enoch's religious belief from him, to take that freedom from him.
Yep.
That's something that's protected in the Irish Constitution. And Enoch is behind bars here tonight because these judges, 14 of them, cannot bear to mention the word religion.
Yep.
Now this has been going on for over a year. And any time religion is mentioned, I can see the judge getting ready to rise. Anytime transgender is mentioned, for a long time they denied it was anything to do with transgenderism. But this all began because Enoch was asked to endorse transgenderism.
In
It's
children.
not a Christian belief. It's not a Christian belief.
Again, adults, sure, you can do whatever you want. Children being told by figures of authority, that's why teachers have different rules. A regular citizen can interact with a student differently than an authority figure, which is a teacher. So there's different rules that govern, even if the age of consent is 16, and a regular citizen is able to have consensual sex with that child, there are states and places where 16 is the age of consent and you can engage in consensual sexual activity with them. Teachers cannot because of that position of authority. So when you have teachers saying, "Oh, do you want to change your gender? Oh, by the way, your gender's not fixed." You know, like you are not just allowing them to come to their own conclusions. You are prompting them. In court, it would be called leading the witness.
And Enoch cannot do that. It's not right. It is not right that he's behind bars here tonight. Enoch has done nothing wrong. He has done nothing wrong. That's a protected right to practice your religion freely in this country. And those judges are denying my son his right to a religious belief. And that's a very serious place we're in this country tonight. It's wrong that my son is behind bars here. It's wrong.
So just to wrap up, Enoch Burke, my brother, is in prison tonight because he would not accept transgenderism. And he's in Mountjoy prison tonight because the judges of this country are punishing him because he will not accept transgenderism. It's a serious and a sobering and a solemn moment in our country's history. And we wanted to make this video to remind you of what's at stake here and to point out again what happened on Friday and why Enoch's presence tonight in Mountjoy prison here in Dublin is unjust and very wrong.
He's locked up in Dublin. So that was 14 hours ago. So Enoch is in jail right now. That was 14 hours ago that video was made. The pinned comment is Enoch Burke was unlawfully incarcerated for the second time on 8 December 2023. This account is being managed by Josiah Burke on his behalf. So, very a biblical man. Obviously, not just saying, you know, that he's religious. Clearly wrote a book expressing his views. And whether you agree with them or not, everybody in a free country is able to hold their private views that are based on their own lived experience, as far as I understood it. I don't know. Things are changing. So, yeah, I will put this article if you want to read the whole thing in here. I read most of it. But yeah, just be on the lookout for this to be coming, not just, you know, things that are going on in Canada and Ireland. This is the seeds of a really shitty tree that they're trying to grow. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to be done to stop this. You need to change your elected leadership because clearly this is being your government's being run by people that do not believe in religious freedom. They only believe in gender freedom, sexual orientation freedom, not religious freedom, and certainly not freedom of speech or freedom of thought or freedom to communicate and have an opinion. Absolutely horrifying that this is the state of the world. So Anyway, you guys take care, and I will see you in the next one.